Hello, and thank you for taking the time to join me today. So we talked on the phone a little bit about what our conversation was going to look like, and you mentioned a few things to me I'd like to recap. Congratulations on getting the capital inflow, and your growth plans are now in place, both geographically and through mergers and acquisitions. And you mentioned that you're a little light on infrastructure and your payroll and HR areas, and you wanted to look at ADP. So before we talk about specific solutions in those areas, what I would like to do is talk about how the big picture, how we're going to help you drive bottom line profit. And as a CFO for an energy consulting company, I'm sure that's important to you because we both know that profit is what it's all about. So let's go ahead and start with the income statement. And I'll kind of give you an idea of how we can do that. So we've got your revenue at the top, of course, your cost of goods sold, coming out to give you your gross margin, minus your operating expense. It's going to give you your net operating income, minus interest, taxes, amortization, depreciation. Is going to give you your net profit. I know this is simplified, but for the sake of the example, hopefully this makes sense to you. My guess is when you think about ADP, okay, ADP, they're not going to work for free, they're going to be an expense, and you're going to peg us for right here. And what I would challenge you to do is open up your mind to the fact that we might be able to impact some or all of the other lines in this income statement. When I say that, I'm talking about your biggest expense, which is your people, your labor, and they're going to be in your cost of goods sold and your operating expense. So if we could drive those big numbers down by 1 to 2 percentage points, not to mention maybe have an impact on your taxes by 1 to 2 points, if nothing else, taking the liability and avoiding penalties, can you see how the reductions in those areas would dramatically improve the bottom line net profit? Good, good. In addition, I would argue that there are situations we're going to be able to impact your revenue, this gross margin number, net operating income, and once again, your net profit as a total. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The lead into that is kind of where are your people going to spend their time, and what's going to lead to that growth in revenue and that drive for net profit. And what we're finding in the market is that's going to be strategic. Your growth plans right now are going to be fueled by geographic growth, mergers and acquisitions. And with that, you're going to need to recruit top talent, which is not easy right now in your sector. And in addition to that, you're going to retain that talent. Once you get them, you want to hang on to them. You want to develop that talent and have some sort of succession plan eventually in place as people move around and move out and get sunset out of the company. And you also mentioned your infrastructure. So that's a fairly good starting point as far as strategic goes. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Okay, great. So what we're finding is the innovative companies and the leaders, this is where they're spending their time, and this makes money. This is what leads to the revenue growth. Growing, getting bigger, acquiring new revenue streams, getting this top talent, that's all going to drive that revenue number. And then if you can keep these costs down, ultimately that net profit's going to go up. So I'm sure that makes sense to you. What we're seeing as far as where people are spending their time in reality is this tactical side is taking a lot of it. When I say tactical, we're talking about things like capturing time, administering payroll, updating HR information systems, 401k administration perhaps, or maybe you're outsourcing that. But then there's compliance issues like the FMLA. This great new piece of legislation called the Affordable Care Act that seems to constantly be changing, and a time drag and a worrisome thing for most companies of your size. In addition to that, you have questions from employees. All these different things, are costing money. And basically, they're adding expenses and they're a drain on the net profit. And I'm sure you're well aware of that. What we're seeing though is that these items have teeth, meaning that if they aren't done correctly or aren't done at all, there's going to be financial penalties that are assessed and enforced because of the lack of doing them correctly or lack of doing it at all. So what we're finding is these items are cannibalizing the strategic items. So the HR department or your key people that you're looking at, that you're leaning on to work on these strategic pieces are spending a lot of time here. Typically, 80 to 100% of their time is spent here, with 20 or less spent here. So the goal, ideally, is to reverse that ratio and free these people up so that they can spend their time on the strategic side, growing, building, recruiting, keep hanging on to the people that you need to stay successful, and somehow offloading this or making it less of a burden on those people. So let's take a look at what that looks like for the average person, the average HR department or HR person, depending on what situation we're looking at. All these different items are coming in to that person. They're coming in by phone, by email, and sometimes in person, where employees are just walking into the office asking for a copy of a pay stub or a W-2 or changing their insurance or asking a question around insurance. Each one of these things coming in, many times, is going to have 3 or 4 different transaction, phone calls, research pieces, trips down the hall, whatever it is, to accommodate them. So your ratio is 1 coming in and 3 or sometimes even 4 things needing to be done to accommodate that request. We call this noise. Basically, this person in HR is so overwhelmed by the daily noise of all these requests, all these things that need to be done, that very little time is being spent over here on the strategic aspect. So the idea for us, for ADP, is to find a way to get this off their plate, automate it, and change this ratio around so that for every 10 to 20 requests coming in, this person only has to do one thing. I know that sounds crazy, but a perfect example is ADP's mobile technology. We spend a tremendous amount of money on research. It allows mobile technology. Almost everyone these days has a smartphone. There's an app you can put right on there, all their HR information, pay information, retirement information, income verification. Everything is right on that phone. So if they have a question, it's self-service. They can look it up themselves. They can do it on their own time. They can do it on the weekend. All these different things is going to take the drag off of this person and reduce all this noise, once again allowing them to focus on the strategic. Now let's talk about, I would imagine that, like anyone in your seat, you're aware that right now these things are getting done. So the question becomes, yes, they're getting done, but at what cost and how efficiently? And what we're typically seeing in the marketplace is silos. When I say silos, a company gets in business, they come up with a way to capture time for their employees. Then they come up with a way to payroll and get those people paid for that time. HR information system to track the different things that go along with those employees in addition to their pay. A benefits administration system. If you want to hang on to your top talent, you're going to need to offer some benefits and keep track of those things. In addition to that, you're probably going to want some 401k administration. And then some sort of recruiting or talent management software as well. So I'm sure along the way you take a look at each of these different things, you choose the one that works best for your current situation, and you go with that. After a while, you have so many silos, the question becomes, how well are these communicating with each other? For instance, Jonathan Smith gets entered into the time system, but in payroll he gets entered as John Smith, and then maybe his middle initial is included in HR for some reason, so you've got Jonathan E. Smith. Then for benefits, it's his full name, Jonathan Edward Smith. What's the true system of record, and how much time and energy and resources is it costing to get that information to go between these? Not to mention double entries, disparate systems across the board. Each time you want to get someone enrolled in these things, all the same information is being entered again. And there's human error that's associated with that. On top of that, we've got real-time reporting issues. Affordable Care Act, for instance, that's right at the intersection time, resource, HR and benefits. All those things for real-time reporting, getting those to communicate effectively so you can make good decisions, sound business decisions with real-time data, my guess is incredibly challenging for you. So as far as what that's costing you, that's a hard one to figure out, but PricewaterhouseCoopers actually took on the task of trying to quantify that amount. And what they found was the profit drain when you have siloed systems is $200 per employee per year. So in your case, with 150 employees at $200 per year, you're looking at $30,000 profit drain. Just coming out to manage the information and get it to flow between those different silos. Pretty significant number right there. So the goal for ADP is to find a solution that is going to close those gaps, eliminate these profit leaks, free up these people to focus on the strategy, drives the revenue, keep the expenses down, and ultimately increase net profit. And the goal, the way, is to find the solution that works best for you. So if you look at like the continuum, you could do nothing over here, or you could hire someone on, whatever that costs in the region you're in for an HR person, 40 to 60,000 perhaps fully burdened. In addition to the 30,000 profit drain, you're looking at significant money there. And you can continue to add people. You can maybe purchase some technology that will tie up some of the loose ends there, or maybe you want some technology and some people. And the final step would be to fully outsource all the systems, and that would be the professional employee organization, which would be kind of a co-employment model. I don't know if you're familiar with that. The reason I'm putting all these options up here is because ADP can help you out across the board. And the risk, really high here, is dropping significantly the further you go, as far as adding technology, automating these systems, offshoring or mitigating your risk, freeing those people up, and outsourcing. Your risk is going to drop down and ultimately be driving profit is the idea. Now, which one of those is the best fit for you? Right now we don't know. The question is, what do you have in place? Where are the areas that you can save? And what I'd like to do, what I'm proposing, is that you champion this effort and we take the next step, bring in some seasoned business consultants to look at what you have in place, how you're doing things, identify areas where we can achieve a return on investment for what you're doing, and close those loopholes, free those people up, take that risk off your plate, and give you the infrastructure you need to go forward and grow and drive that net profit. Does that sound like a good plan? Fantastic.